Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming Last Chance qualifier for our main event tomorrow. We're playing Pioneer and we're in round number 5. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
This last match is going to be a doozy. Why don't you give us a rundown of the two players we're going to be watching as well as the decks they're playing?
So we're going to be watching Robin, we're watching May, sorry. We got May French on Izzet Phoenix, trying to avoid the disastrous 3-0-0-2, and she's going to be playing against Phil Zell on Keruga Fires. Now, this is a pair down, so Phil is a 2-2. Going to be difficult for him to sneak into the top 4, even with a win, but these players are still playing for a lot of prize ball tickets and other prizes, so definitely some motivation for Phil to keep playing. And May is going to have to earn her win here in the last round.
Yeah.
So we saw Phil play against, it was Gage Gorley on Izzet Phoenix earlier in the day. Lost that match, but it was a very tight match. Gage stole one of the games with a quad Phoenix draw. We'll see if May can be as aggressive. Her list does not play as many cheap spells as Gage's does. Gage had things like Otherworldly Gaze in his list that we don't see in May's. Hers is a more typical list. We'll see which one can match up better against the powerful enchantment synergies of this Keruga Fires deck.
Alrighty, well, the players are seated and ready in the feature match area. So without further ado, let's head on down there and see who takes it down between May French's Izzet Phoenix and Phil Zell's Keruga Fires.
Actually, take it back. There are 2 copies of Otherworldly Gaze in May's list. Also has 2 Izzet Charms and 2 Spell Pierce in the main. That extra interaction could be critical here.
Yeah, I agree. Izzet Charm is one that you don't see too much these days, but being an instant to go with Picklock Prankster might change that because it allows you a lot of flexibility on turn 2 and how you interact with your opponent. Hall of Storm Giants here for May. We're going to go cast on that Consider, where Phil Zell just has Savai Triumph as his first land. Pretty common in the Keruga Fires deck since they don't play too many spells that can be played for 1 or 2 mana. Firebluff Canal for May French on turn 2. Both players just playing land passing on their turn 2. May back on turn 3. Tap Steam Vents. Here you go. See if Phil Zell can deploy anything on the 3rd turn. Gonna shock with Breeding Pool. Hope it's by Keruga. Here's Fable the Mirror Breaker. And this one resolves. May can play a removal spell here on it. Had the Izzet Charm for the Fable and chose not to use it. Instead, really valuing that counterspell against the 4-drops from Phil Zell's Keruga Fires. The Fires of Invention itself and the the blue-green enchantment that goes and gets creatures.
Enigmatic Incarnation.
There it is.
Could also be valuing the Izzet Charm as a discard outlet for the Arclight Phoenix that's already in hand.
True. All right, well, we are going to play Sleight of Hand, and we're looking at, I believe, a land and a spell, but could be wrong. Looks like a Consider going to hand, land at the bottom. All right, May with a few options here, but likely just going to pass with the Izzet Charm available, be my guess. We are going to shock. It's going to give us the ability to play Consider and Izzet Charm here.
And May's life total is not particularly important in this matchup. She is the aggressor. If Phil wins, it'll likely be by miles.
All right, we're going to discard 1 to Fable the Mirror Breaker, and if you told me the world was going to end unless I told you what that card was that was just discarded, well, buckle up, buckaroos, because it's time to end things. I don't know what it is. Here's Fires. Gets countered by Izzet Charm. Okay. What about you, Director? You know what it is? Yeah, no clue.
We fire off the Consider end step. We might have to see the Arclight Phoenix get hardcast at this point. But
I'm going to start with picking some locks. Top 4, we get to put
an opt into our hand.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
No other spells in the package, yeah.
Here's an opt. Looking for another Izzet Charm. Finds Otherworldly Gaze. Going to put it on the bottom. Thinking about it. Might keep it.
Who knows? What if the other 3 Phoenixes are the top 3 cards of your deck?
Right.
We would look mighty foolish.
It's also 2 spells for a big Phoenix turn later on, and May is fairly low on resources here. It looks like we're going to keep it and hard cast it now, looking for a Phoenix to bring back immediately and start pressuring. We're going to look at the top 3, though. I don't think we found a Phoenix, so it's going to be a little disappointing, but I do think she found a Treasure Cruise, which can bolster her resources next turn for very cheap.
Treasure Cruise is definitely the card you're looking for at this point, with all of the resources being spent trading on the early turns.
All right. And I think she put them all back on top, which is pretty surprising, but they must all 3 be spells that are pretty good along with that Treasure Cruise. Fable's going to flip. We're going to go back Phil Zell's way and see what he's got for turn number 5. That Fire's Invention got countered, but now shields are down. Here's an Enigmatic Incarnation, and we can sacrifice that Fable the Mirror Breaker, the backside reflection, go get a 4-drop. Maybe a Shieldred, maybe the Heliod.
Yeah, Heliod the Radiant Dawn is definitely the better of the 2 4-drops that he can find in the main deck, Thassa Deep Dwelling being the other.
Yeah. Director, did anyone in chat say what the card was that went to the graveyard? Somebody's got to know. So demoralizing.
The Thassa Deep Dwelling. So we
Alright.
had to get Heliod.
I see. Okay, fair enough. So, Heliod's going to bring back the Fire's Invention. It's going to allow for some more explosive turns over the next few. We're going to go delving with Treasure Cruise, and we're going to draw 3 cards, leaving the Otherworldly Gaze in the graveyard. There it is. Constellation Thassa Deep Dwelling. Not one you see too often because, I don't know reasons, but...
Okay, what do we find? A bunch of blue cards.
Yeah, Picklock, maybe a Consider in there, and another Otherworldly Gaze.
So I think we want to Picklock first. We don't want to leave cards on top with the Gaze and then mill them with the Picklock. May disagrees.
All right, finds another Treasure Cruise on top. If one of her cards in hand still is one of the 1-mana draw effects, we can get that Treasure Cruise and go again. The thing that's happening right now is French is rebuilding her resource base after just like playing Lightning Axe and some other stuff early on or whatever. But what's really happening is that we're just spinning our wheels. And without a Phoenix in the graveyard, a Thing in the Ice in play, or a Ledger Shredder in play, drawing a bunch of cards doesn't really matter in the face of the Enigmatic Incarnation that's going to pop off next turn, unless one of those cards is Interaction, like Spell Pierce or another Izzet Charm.
Yeah, agreed. This is a matchup where you need to be aggressive from the Phoenix side, and these Pioneers of Phoenix decks, they just don't provide the same clock that maybe the old Modern deck did with, turn 3 transformed Thing in the Ice. And Faithless Looting enabling early double Phoenix draws.
Ross, you better calm down. You're getting me worked up. I haven't seen someone cast Faithless Looting in so long, and I miss it so much.
Yeah, it's a good Magic card.
You know where you can play it is Historic on Magic Arena.
Sure, why not?
It's certainly okay in Historic on Magic Arena. Place where they allow the 1 ring. Although I think they nerfed it recently, which is wild to me. Here's a Fire's Invention. Does May have a response? Looks like no. Here's another Enigmatic. So we can use 1 Enigmatic to sack another Enigmatic and 1 Enigmatic to sack Fires and go get 2 5-drops. We'll see what they are. First 5-drop that we're going to go get. It's Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. This is going to double any enters the battlefield effects. If we go get Tolsimir, that's 2 wolves that gain life. I think we end up gaining 12 life. It's a weird one. Maybe not. No, I think it's 4 fights, 6 life, but maybe it's... I don't know. Sorry,
Nobody
2
knows.
wolves, 4 fights, 12 life. That's what it is. That's what Elliot told me one time.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Now, even though there's nothing to fight, the ability still triggers to gain the life. It triggers twice. In turn, we're going to go for Otherworldly Gaze as May French. Looking for something cool next turn, but also just wanting to find Phoenixes to put into the graveyard. We're going to leave a sleight of hand on top. We're going to draw for turn. Top 2. 2 lands. Probably going to keep the pathway so we don't take damage.
We've cast like 17 cantrips in this game and have yet to turn them into anything.
I think the big swing turn was May use the Izzet charm. May allowed Fable to resolve on 3 and use Fire Impulse to kill the token. And I think that she should have drawn 2, discarded 2, one of which was the Phoenix, untap, go Fire Impulse the token, play 2 more things, get back Phoenix, start applying pressure. That would have left her a little vulnerable to fires or enigmatic from Phil Zell, so maybe the game spirals out of control in that vein, but it's already spiraling out of control right now, so who's to say?
Yeah. The big issue was not having a 2-drop threat on 2. May has opted for a Thing in the Ice build, not a Shredder build. But you still just need one of those on turn 2 in matchups like this, because those are your cards that really get to apply a lot of pressure. And Shredder in particular can discard your Arclight Phoenixes.
Alright, May does find a Lightning Axe. I can kill the Tulsamir, put a Phoenix in the graveyard, and allow for an attack for 3, but with active Enigmatic Incarnation, this game is all but wrapped up. 28 life for Phil Zell. Going to be difficult for May French to chop down. I'm going to opt. Never seen someone spin their wheel so hard in their life.
Just trying to get the car out of the ditch.
Yeah.
But it's not moving.
You know, when I talk about Izzet cards, a lot of times I use the term traction. And it's funny you compare it to a car spinning its wheels. That's what we're talking about. If you play a bunch of card draw spells, but there is no end game to the cards drawn, other than finding more cards to draw, you do not increase your position in the game. And here, May sees the writing on the wall. Just a Phoenix getting eaten up by Leyline Binding. That means a 7-drop's coming next turn. That's all she wrote. May is going to get to look at her sideboard and see if she can help herself out in this matchup against Keruga Fires. And when she's doing that, Ross is going to take a look at the sideboard as well, give us his expert analysis on what he thinks May should do.
Yeah, plenty of good options here. She has 2 copies of Saheeli Sublime Artificer, 2 Crackling Drake, 2 Brotherhood's End, 2 Mystical Dispute, 1 Negate, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Aether Gust, and 2 Abrade. I like bringing in counterspells. 7 counterspells come in, you start becoming a less proactive deck and more just play out a threat here or there, find a turn to sneak a Phoenix into play or a Thing in the Ice, and then just start countering all of these really clunky, expensive sorcery speed spells from the Fires deck. Over on the other side for Phil Zell, we have 1 Coma Cosmos Serpent, 1 Keruga the Macro Sage as a companion, 1 Supreme Verdict, 2 Slaughter Games, 2 Deafening Clarion, 3 Mystical Dispute, 3 Leyline of the Void, and 2 Temporary Lockdown. Obviously, the Leyline of the Voids are incredible in the matchup. They could induce May to bring in some of the non-graveyard-centric threats from the sideboard, the Saheelis or the Crackling Drakes, but those are tough ones to land when you're trying to also hold up counterspells. So we'll see how many of those, if any, she wants to bring in. And then I also like the Mystical Disputes from Zell's side because, you know, May is bringing in a bunch of counterspells. That's what the Phoenix deck and Pioneer does. So you want to bring in your own disputes to fight those counter wars.
All right. Well, as these players are finishing their sideboarding and shuffling up for game number 2, I want to thank Ross for his analysis on those sideboards. But while they're shuffling, I'll take this time to say thank you to our sponsors for this weekend's festivities. First of all, thank you so much to Ultimate Guard. They are the premier retailer for, or not retailer, premier provider. I don't know what to call them. I'm so sorry. Ultimate Guard's got great TCG supplies, from the Katana sleeves to the Archive deck box. They make some good things to protect your collection in a number of different ways. There was a while back they had I believe it's called the Arcanite backpack. That one was nice. We actually
Ammonite
backpack. We used to promote that on Versus Live. That thing was tight. Ultimate Guard can be found at your local game store, and if they don't have it, you can ask for it by name. Also, thank you so much to Moxfield.com, a brand new deck builder. We use it for the stream, and I've been using it over the last few days. Big fan of them and their program to build and share decks. So it's also a great place to store decks that you've been working on for a long time, and it archives them for you. Thank you to Wings Etc. Grill and Pub. We were there last night having a good fun and good food, and we'll probably be in there again sometime again this weekend. It's always fun. Thank you so much to our flagship sponsor, TCGplayer.com. They are the industry leader when it comes to singles, as well as anything related to TCGs. Their marketplace is top. Their sister website, TCG Player Infinite, is where they post their strategy articles from big names like Hall of Famer Frank Karsten and a number of other professional players for various games. Thank you so much to TCG Player for being our flagship sponsor. We really appreciate them engaging with us and providing us some very useful funds for this event. Thank you so much.
Okay, May French back against the wall. Started this LCQ 3-0, trying to avoid the backslide in the last 2 rounds. Gonna need to have a more aggressive draw here, but now has a lot more good interaction. Can cut a lot of the red removal. Maybe even wants to cut down on Arclight Phoenix itself. It's just so hard to discard when your lightning axes aren't turned on.
Yeah, that's true. Even when we do draw the Izzet charms, they have so much value in the matchup for countering fires and enigmatic that it becomes difficult to use them on something as paltry as discarding an Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, and you don't want to be casting Snare Thopters.
All right. Steam events here. The play for May. Gonna play an Otherworldly Gaze. Philzel's turn just to turn 1 Triumph. Says go.
The classic double draw.
The more I watch these Otherworldly Gazes, the less I like them. There's so little synergy with the graveyard other than exactly Arclight Phoenix. I guess there's Treasure Cruise, but I've never found the Phoenix deck to be struggling to put cards into the graveyard. One thing we do see is the ability to play it twice, which can trigger Thing in the Ice twice. Can also help get Phoenixes back from the graveyard when we're low on resources. But if the Otherworldly Gaze were just more copies of Sleight of Hand, maybe it would be better. I don't know. It's tough. Here is a Sleight of Hand that's going to trigger Thing in the Ice. Looking at the top 2. Finds a land if she needs it.
I think when you specifically go for a Thing in the Ice build, having spells that work as multiple spells, especially when you put them in your graveyard, and more ways to just get Arclight Phoenix into the graveyard because you no longer have Shredder, it makes more sense to go with Otherworldly Gaze. Whereas in a Shredder build, I think I would agree with you. Let's just play some more Slights.
All right, gonna go back to Philip Zell's way, and him playing the Keruga Fires deck. No play on turn 1, 2, and now no play on 3. I know May French has a copy of Mystical Dispute in hand, and she can use that to protect from one of those blue spells from Phil Zell's deck, or she can hard cast it for 3 mana to stop something like Fire's Invention. We'll see if that's what she wants to go for anytime soon. But she's going to be looking to transform Thing in the Ice here in just a few. Here's Leyline Binding from Phil Zell. It's going to cost 3. It's going to come down on the inset. We'll see if May has the answer. She's going to spend 1. To play. Is that a null? Is there a null in her
I think
sideboard?
that's Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce. That's a funky looking Spell Pierce, but
It is indeed. But
there's
it's
an
Spell
null
Pierce.
from some set that looks exactly like that. I think it's from like Scars of Mirrodin block. I don't know. Whatever. But takes care of the Leyline Binding. A nice little a nice little hit there for that Spell Pierce.
I think there's another binding in hand for Zell, though.
Well, we're also getting up to 4 mana now, so we might be able to play Fires and be very threatening here. We're going to go for another Binding. Does May have another answer? Has Disdainful Stroke. What a hit. This is going to take out the Binding and flip Thing in the Ice. Mystical Dispute back! So now the Thing in the Ice will flip, but it goes under the Leyline Binding, and the pressure from May is gone. And her hand is mostly gone, too.
Now, even though the Thing in the Ice transforms into Awoken Horror first before it's exiled by Binding, should that Binding leave the battlefield, it will return as a Thing in the Ice.
True dat.
So no need to transform it there, just shortcut it. And yeah, that I think spells disaster for May French. She had it lined up with multiple pieces of protection, but Phil Zell with multiple Leyline Bindings and the Mystical Dispute out of the sideboard just overloaded her defenses barely.
All right, Sacred Foundry is the land for Phil Zell. We're going to play it tapped, which means no 5-drops this turn. We're going to buy Keruga. That can be played next turn to draw a card. We know May has Mystical Dispute next turn for it. But for now, we're going to go for, in a turn, I believe, Picklock Prankster. But first, we're going to opt. No, we're not. We're going to Otherworldly Gaze from the graveyard instead. Okay. Top
See if we
three.
can start hitting some phoenixes. That's all blue cards.
Yeah, I want the Treasure Cruise, though. We can leave that one on top for sure.
Yeah.
I also see a Saheeli, Sublime Artificer. So May could actually have a cheeky little servo-generating turn, and may even be able to do it with Mystical Dispute backup. If all she does is play Mystical Dispute alongside that Saheeli, I think that might be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a nice start to catching back up in this game, and then reload the next turn with Treasure Cruise.
All right, decides against it. We're going to go back her way. Going to just lean on this Treasure Cruise and maybe start digging for Phoenix or another copy of Thing in the Ice. Not going to cast the Opt on the end step, perhaps saving that for Phoenix or something down the line. Plus, we already know that the top card's good, so no need to burn a Scry when you can burn it later.
Yeah. Do you want to burn the Scry or burn the mana? May decides, I want to burn the mana. I've got plenty of that.
All right, here's a Cruise. We're going to play Mystical Dispute on it, but May can pay. I think this is a pretty easy pay, draw 3. Hope you hit a blue source so you can Mystical Dispute the Keruga later. Gonna let it go to the graveyard. Interesting.
Really wants to hold up that dispute for this turn. I don't necessarily blame her, but Treasure Cruise is a pretty important card for her side of things as well.
Yeah, I'm into it. It's like a hard decision, but it's a decision that not a lot of people are going to make, and I don't know what the right decision is. So, I'm going to lean there for May. Keruga down. Into turn, we're going to pick some locks.
Having the pick lock also, and there's another Cruise, so...
That's another reason why she let it get countered, because she knew there was another one on top. So, really heads up play for May to protect herself with that Mystical Dispute from something non-blue that could have been played on the previous turn.
Well, and now she's thinking, do I want the negate for Phil's next threat, or do I want to rely on Cruise to get me there? I don't think you're going to win this game with a bunch of one-for-ones, May.
True, but so hard to say no to Treasure Cruise, but May does. Makes the hard choice twice. We'll see if it can pay off 4. Could be one of those situations where it doesn't matter what you decide, you're going to be in some pain.
Is that another pick lock?
Seems like. You know, one thing that's been impressive to me for Picklock is that I haven't seen it miss yet. Cards like that can occasionally brick when you are casting them in weird spots, and you know the top 4 cards of your deck are just lands and or creatures. But so far it's looked quite strong, and here it looks even stronger than I thought before. Here we're gonna go digging, probably gonna take the Disdainful Stroke, put the other 3 into the graveyard.
Definitely like taking the Disdainful Stroke, maybe flashback the Gaze as well to set up our next draw. The issue is we're trying to hold up all these counter spells. How are we going to return the Phoenixes? Maybe the plan is to play out these Pranksters and plink away with them until we can set up a really big turn with 2 or 3 Phoenixes.
Yeah, once you're out of counter spells, that's generally the turn where you go, okay, now I'll cast my Ops and Considers and Otherworldly Gazes from the graveyard, and then I'll get my Phoenix back and attack. But it looks like May's going to go ahead and burn one of the Otherworldly Gazes here to look at the top 3. Finds Saheeli. I'm not sure if that's worth keeping around. She benched one earlier.
Well, if we've got a land as well, we could keep both. Next turn, draw land, play Picklock, hold up counterspell, then draw Saheeli, hold up counterspell. That could be our way of generating pressure. Keeps all of them. There's the land. Ooh.
Pass this turn. We're going to go Stomp Face.
We're ignoring our 1/3 flyers. Let's start getting in.
Well, I think May is playing ultra conservative with double counterspell in the face of Mystical Dispute backup. There's already been 2 played, though. I like your line of play one of the Pranksters just to get some pressure on. Here comes Bone Crusher Giant. No answer for it. May unlikely to have too many answers left in her deck. I don't think Fire Impulse is one that she's going to keep around too often. She finds Saheeli, Sublime Artificer.
Yeah. And you knew this Bone Crusher, or I guess you didn't. You got stopped on the end step, but now the Saheeli looks a lot worse. The Bone Crusher is pressuring it, and your Mystical Dispute, or their Mystical Dispute, was going to be good on this turn anyway.
All right, 4-point attack. Let's see if Philzel has something like Stomp to try to clear it off that might force negate from May. It's gonna be May.
think we have to leave up the counterspell the entire time. We can play Picklock plus Opt this turn, but if we would play Picklock the previous turn, 2 Picklocks and an Opt to make a token would allow us to trade for this Bone Crusher Giant.
All right, well, instead, we're going to start with Opt, and I know that we drew another card draw spell for the turn, so May going to be looking for a chain of 3 card draw effects to bring back Phoenix and hold up 1 counterspell.
That's a cruise.
Another treasure cruise, and her patience earlier letting those 2 cruises fall to the wayside in the face of counterspells and such is paying off in spades.
Yeah, this is a great series of draws for May French. She's looking a lot better in this game now.
All right, we're going to draw 3. Treasure Cruise. Make a token.
3 cards.
Get this girl some servos. Finds another Picklock Prankster. I believe we can just play Opt here. But maybe it's Picklock, and then we still just hold up. Oh, we're just going to play hold up
double
2
counterspell. That was the turn to return our Arclight, though.
Yeah, look, she's played the same way all game, and that's max protect. And so far, it's working quite well. I'm going to stick to it. You know, doesn't need to get that aggressive with the Arclight Phoenix as long as she's able to contain the pressure from Phil Zell.
And Phil's not on too many cards. Looks like about 3 left in the hand, so...
Most of his stuff's also at sorcery speed, so having 2 counterspells up means that the only way she loses is with big spell plus double mystical dispute.
Goes for an Opt on the end step. Now finds a Consider. So building up this army of servos. And if we can just find a removal spell for the Bone Crusher, I don't know how many removal spells are left in the deck.
Mm-hmm. You definitely don't want to bounce it either, because then Stomp can take care of the Saheeli. All right, we're going to go back May's way. Finds Crackling Drake. That is very close to a lethal Crackling Drake with the Saheeli. If May starts counting it up and finds out that it is lethal, we might see it cast this turn, have one of these servo tokens turned into a Crackling Drake and a swing over for a big attack.
Yeah, we don't have enough devotion to activate the Saheeli.
Oh, excuse me. Good call. Did get knocked down to 1 earlier.
So I think we might be, let's dig for some lands, make 2 more land drops, play the Crackling Drake next turn with double counterspell up, and have it be effectively suspend 1, win the game.
May with a lot of options at our disposal. This could be a pretty long game here. We're going to start with main phase Opt, maybe looking to get back the Phoenix this turn, maybe just looking to hit some land drops. We're going to bottom, I believe, a Spire Bluff Canal. We find Sleight of Hand. I think I just say go. And then we go end of turn, Picklock if there's not a need for double counterspell.
Well, we could get the Phoenix back this turn potentially, but that would take down double counterspell.
Right, and she's been very patient about that the whole time. If you're gonna play Picklock, you might as well play Crackling Drake and hold up the 2 mana too, right?
Yeah.
May thinking about getting a little aggressive with the servos. All right, here's another Picklock. Gonna make another servo. Top 4 finds another Phoenix. This is spell number 2 for the turn, and finds a way to get things back.
That's a sleight of hand.
2 Phoenix is too much to not go for it here, so she's gonna play that sleight of hand, look at the top 2, and bring back 2 Phoenix and make a big attack.
Yeah, if we could find a 1 mana counterspell here to still have double up, that would be ideal. Even then, I'm not sure what Phil Zell is going to be doing on this turn.
It needs to just be like enigmatic into 7-drop, and the 7-drop needs to be good enough, and I'm not even sure that it is. We'll see. Bone Crusher Giant blocks one of the servos. We're going to take 3, 6, 9, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's 3 servos coming across after 1 gets blocked.
Okay, May still with a completely stacked graveyard as well, so a future Delve card could be played for cheaply.
Hey, this is the big turn for Phil Zell. Does he have a way to power through 1 counterspell?
Well, we know 2 mystical speeds are down, so if it's just cast 1 spell, that's rough. If he's been sandbagging stuff in the face of knowing about these counter spells, this might come back to bite him. It could have potentially ground through it, and I know he's had the Keruga for quite some time. Oh yeah, if you're May and your opponent cycles a Triumph on a turn where you're hoping they don't have a big swingy one, you got to be doing a mental fist pump right now.
Yeah, that is not going to do cycling a Rogran Triumph. Now it basically has to be Incarnation plus the last Mystical Dispute. I think that's the only combination that even attempts to get Phil back in this game.
Yeah, and he packs it in. Game number 2 goes to May French.
Okay, 20 minutes left in the round. Plenty of time to finish.
All right, on our backup we have a mono green mirror happening. It looks like pure chaos. So many permanents in play from both players. Let's take a live look in. Let's zoom in. I want to see, is there a Pithy Needle on a Karn the Great Creator? I feel like that's the only way the battlefield's become this weird and big. Yes, of course there's a Pithy Needle on the Karn the Great Creator. Of course there is. Worst day of my life. Robin's just like, I'm a swinging. Jacob's like, I'm crying.
I assume this is game 1. Can we get
Probably.
confirmation on that?
We'll ask our spotter to check with them, but who knows?
And I would think the Nissa is a bit of a mirror breaker if the needle.
Well, we actually saw that before with we had the Nissu Shakes the World was
Yeah.
the way Heckard actually won the game when Needle came into play.
This looks like, I think we're in combat. I think Robin is
Oh,
just
yeah.
making a huge attack here.
Agreed. Yeah.
Just making Eckert make the hard decisions.
I'm
I'll just
out.
turn him sideways.
I'm out. Go back. I'm out. I don't want to. Even if the game's ending this turn, I don't care. All right, players are shuffling up here for game number 3. This is a deciding match for May French. If she's able to win this match, very likely going to be in our invitational tomorrow. She is a solid player that we've had here on the Apex series multiple times over the last few months, traveling along with her good friend Relic Robin next to her, as well as both of their coach, Mason Esports Clark, who is right now watching the worst mono green mirror I've ever seen. It was game 1. We got confirmation, so welcome to hell.
And with under 20 minutes now in the round, that one game is probably the entire match for Jacob Heckert and Robin Gonzalez.
Yeah, it looks like Hecker was on the down and out. And I don't think there was any chance that he could come back and win the game without Beseju on Pithy Needle, because things looked pretty bleak there in terms of board position.
We are now focused on less green things.
All right. Izzet Phoenix versus Keruga Fires, game 3. Phil Zell going to be on the play. Let's see what he keeps or mulligans. I see a Mystical Dispute peeking out. Maybe that's worth keeping if you got a payoff and some lands.
The big one to be looking for Phil Zell is Leyline of the Void.
Yep. That one's going to shut down a lot of what May French is doing. We don't have it, so I try them. Both players keep 7. Going to go to May French's way.
Ooh, Hall is an interesting one. That's one where you may not need as much early aggression, because if you just trade resources and make land drops, crews, and things like that, the Hall will eventually become a major threat.
All right. All the Storm Giants here is the land turn number 1, and we play Consider, benching an island. May going to shock on turn 2 for Thing in the Ice. But Phil Zell has Domain and is able to play off Savai Triumph, that Leyline Binding, and take care of Thing in the Ice before it can flip and do any damage. No turn 3 play or buy of the Keruga there for Phil Zell. Going to go back May's way. We know Phil Zell has Mystical Dispute in hand, so maybe that's something he can snag May with in a weird spot.
Yeah, probably not going to jam here when he has Dispute. Instead is Patient, land go.
All right, we're going to Consider. Top card, it goes to the grave. It's a pathway. Looks like we drew
Sleight of hand?
I think that was the funky looking Spell Pierce, but we'll see.
Spell Pierce could be a key one. Ooh, Saheeli with a Spell Pierce here is nice, although you can't pay for the Dispute.
Yeah, max patience here again for May. We have, I think, Spell Pierce and Izzet Charm at the ready, and I would guess that it never comes down until they're out of the hand. She was very patient in game number 2. We'll see if she can do the same in game number 3 and has it pay off.
But she has no pressure right now, so Phil can afford to be patient as well. Maybe wait out those soft counters. Well, not if he doesn't make land drops.
Yeah. Missing land drops when you're in like a jockey for position counterspell battles often the beginning of the end. In May, since his weakness, we're going to go draw 2, discard 2 with Izzet Charm. We know there's an Izzet Arclight Phoenix in hand already. That one's very likely going to go to the graveyard. And then when we untap, we're going to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a cruise in hand. That'll be a nice one. Still have the Saheeli as well.
The Phoenix is an easy discard. Sparbluff can now a pretty easy discard as well since it enters tapped. Unless there's no other land, but I see a Steam Vent's poking out there.
Okay, 6 cards in graveyard other than the Phoenix. We're going to want to cantrip first so we can fully delve the cruise. You know, still going to run afoul of this Mystical Dispute, I think. I guess if we have, even with land 5, if we go cantrip into cruise, Philzel can Mystical Dispute it, and you either tap out and don't return the Phoenix, or you don't resolve the cruise. Neither a particularly good outcome for May French.
All right, here's Saheeli, Sublime Artificer. That's going to catch a Mystical Dispute. And it looks like we're going to pass the turn after that, holding up some sort of counter magic, or at least bluffing it. We're going to play Treasure Cruise for 1 instead, leave the shields slightly down, but I do think that that was a Spell Pierce, so it makes a lot of sense. And we have another Mystical Dispute. I don't think that's that bad, though, because this isn't something pressuring May, and she can always rebuild and cast another Treasure Cruise in a few turns. Here is Enigmatic, and Spell Pierce from May takes it down. She's on the victory march.
Well, it needs to find some spells to return this Phoenix.
Don't worry, they're coming. And I know that we have another counterspell in hand. Just picked up another Mystical Dispute. So start off here with Sleight of Hand, looking for a couple cantrips. Putting a Phoenix on the bottom, I think. Gonna pass turn back. Gonna play Ultra Defensive here. I think she found a Disdainful Stroke.
Okay, Stroke is a good one. So we have multiple counter spells now. I think Philzel is in jam mode.
Yeah, especially with what's that, 2 Mystical Disputes already in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Here's a hard cast Mystical Dispute on the Elesh Norn, and it's gonna go down.
Yeah, if you're May, you're just happy to make that trade, keep filling the graveyard towards this other treasure cruise.
Here's Sleight of Hand. We're gonna push towards getting those Phoenix back pretty quickly here. Let's see what she keeps. She finds another Mystical Dispute. That's a bit defensive, but it will allow her to play some protection here against another spell from Keruga Fires on the following turn.
Yeah, this is an interesting turn. If we have another 1-mana cantrip, we could play that into a 3-mana treasure cruise to return the Phoenix, but then even a land off the cruise doesn't let us hold up Disdainful Stroke. So, yeah, May continuing to approach this matchup in the same way. Let's be defensive, make sure none of these really powerful cards from the Fires deck resolves. We have plenty of card advantage to refill later. Ooh, Heliod. Is there an enchantment in the graveyard to get back? There's the Incarnation, yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely worth countering here, I think. Now we're going to go back to May's Way. Now we can cruise for pretty cheap. I think we got 6 in the yard, so we can cruise for 2. If we have a card draw effect before that, we can play that instead. Going to leave the Phoenix there. Draw 3. And this is what we've been building toward. Defend, defend, defend. Draw 3. Defend, defend, defend. Draw 3. Great place to be.
Looks like we found a third treasure cruise. I'm not sure if there's anything else to continue the spell chain to maybe get this Phoenix back and start pressuring Philzel's life total.
I see a Disdainful Stroke, so another defensive turn coming up here for May. Let's see if Phil jams into it or maybe plays this Fable, the Mirror Breaker he just drew.
Fable's a nice one. It gets under the Disdainful Stroke.
Here's Fable. May has, I think, 2 Disdainful Strokes in hand, so
Oof.
I think the last card is Otawara along with that Treasure Cruise.
Well, Otawara can deal with the Goblin Shaman. That's not bad.
May picks up a Picklock.
That's very good with the cruise in hand.
Yeah, she may want to do it on the instep, though, to have max mana up, but
Yeah, I think this might be a channel Otawara, hold up counterspell plus Picklock, and then if I need to counter, I can Picklock plus cruise next turn.
Well, May's going to start the chain. Oh, finds Spell Pierce. Okay, so we didn't brick, and we milled quite a few cards.
Spell Pierce, ideally not one that you show your opponent, but the threat of it will still be powerful.
Chapter 2 Fable going to be coming off here soon. May be in a little bit of trouble. Going to cast Picklock Prankster as a blocker to protect the life total. I like this play, especially with Disdainful Truck plus Spell Pierce on backup. Ooh, Philzel does have Mystical Dispute in hand, so could be able to force through a big play here. We'll see if he's able to. Discards nothing. Attacks with a Goblin. We're going to get a treasure, and then Picklock bounces.
What is left in Philzel's hand? Do I see the third dispute?
Yes. I think there's a bunch of expensive stuff as well. He considered discarding, I think, the elephant, Titan of Industry, the thing that makes an elephant, whatever.
Ooh, concentrate.
4 cost, Treasure Cruise. You got to do what you got to do. Gonna play Mystical Dispute on it, and now May's got a tough decision.
Yeah, if she wants to pay for this, it'll only be Spell Pierce up, and it's a Spell Pierce Philzel knows about. She once again plays conservatively. But now, where is the pressure going to come from to close out this game? Eventually, Philzel is going to turn on this Reflection and start attacking with 2/2/2s each turn. And you can only block 1, and you're taking 2 a turn and only dealing 1. He's winning the race. So you're going to have to blink first.
It's been a tough match for May French, navigating the tumultuous waters of Keruga Fires, and now we're in some very tight turns where a small misstep could cost either player the match. For May, losing the match likely means missing the Invitational. For Philzel, losing the match means losing on prize. Here comes land number 6 with the treasures now. Philzel can deploy big baddie and have Mystical Dispute mana up. Oh, no, he burned it on the Treasure Cruise. Okay, here's Titan of Industry. May has
I have to imagine that one will meet a Disdainful Stroke. Especially with this Reflection on the battlefield to start copying it.
Yeah, that could be quite bad. Okay, counterspell.
Okay, 1 big threat down. 2 cards left in Philzel's hand.
All right, Opt is the draw. Gonna start with that. Looking for a way to get the Phoenix back. Otherworldly Gaze is the pickup. 2 Otherworldly Gazes, and then we can hold up 2 counterspells. It seems like the perfect card to hit for May French, and we can dig deeper for Phoenix as well.
Yeah, we've only hit 1 Phoenix so far. There's a good chance we hit a second one here. That would be a big game.
If she doesn't hit a Phoenix, there's some chance he just puts all 3 into the graveyard. Oh, there's a Crackling Drake there, though.
I do like Crackling Drake here. We have 2 counter spells. We can counter a threat next turn, then play Crackling Drake, counter a threat the turn after, and get an attack in.
Well, one of the counterspells is just a Spell Pierce, so I'm not sure how effective it's going to be necessarily.
We still get to dig 2 more cards deep for an Arclight Phoenix.
Yeah, we are going to go ahead and flash back, and that is going to trigger the Arclight Phoenix at the beginning of combat. If we can find another one, we don't. Unfortunate.
Do we find a counterspell to draw off the Crackling Drake next turn?
Unsure.
Yeah, I can't see what those cards are.
All right, May French, it's your time. Can you find a way to close it out? This Keruga Fires deck is...
Looks like it was a Thing in the Ice goes to the graveyard and 2 on top. So she likes the card that's beneath the Crackling Drake.
All right, here's an attack for 4. Going to put Philzel down to 15. All right, we're going to go back his way. Important to note, there is a Hall of the Storm Giants on May's side of things. If Phil ever taps out, does a little too aggressive of an attack, May might be able to capitalize with that big swing. But we're going to start off here with, oh my God,
Touch of the Spirit Realm.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's fine. We're not reliant on the. If anything, trading that for the Arclight Phoenix instead of the Crackling Drake is great.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right, another treasure gained. We're going to block with the Picklock Prankster. It says leave vulnerable to Stomp, but this is a very easy block for May to make.
Ooh, the treasure plus a land drop, But that's going to empty the hand. So if we Disdainful Stroke the Enigmatic Incarnation, then we just have to dodge one draw step from Phil Zell.
Yeah, for Crackling Drake to take it all on its lonesome. May definitely going to counter this with the Disdainful Stroke in hand. Thinking about, I think, burning the Spell Pierce to burn the 2 treasure tokens, maybe. That was a consideration.
Yeah, but there's 7 mana on Zell's side.
All right, draws for turn. Here comes the big Papa Crackling Drake. That one counts graveyard and exile, and we know this is like turn 1,000, and May's exile zone is bigger than Ross's head.
Yeah, there's no way this Crackling Drake isn't a lethal threat.
Yeah, Infinity 4. Finds Picklock Prankster.
Oh, that is a great one.
Yeah, we can go ahead and churn the top 4, looking for another counter spell here to have better options, and maybe we can even find a chain of 2 card draw effects and an Arclight Phoenix that brings it back.
Yeah, I think I would just wait and see what Phil Zell draws. Maybe the threat that he draws changes what you want to take off of the Free the Fae.
Sure. Well, the counterspells in her deck are something like, you're right. I think waiting is probably fine, but getting aggressive makes some sense if Phil Zell's draw step is something that deals with Crackling Drake.
We've already seen her cast both Disputes, both Strokes for sure. The Negate might still be there.
Well, here is the Picklock Prankster. It's going to reveal 4 spells that we can take, and Treasure Cruise looks like it's going to be the one that we do take. And we can cast that for 1 and draw 3 cards right now.
You got to take Cruise because the best outcome is finding another untapped land and a 2-mana counterspell.
Yeah. All right, we're going to delve 7 to draw 3 cards for 1 mana.
And the 4th Treasure Cruise is the main reason to cast the Free the Fae main phase. So May French getting massively paid off for her choice of line.
Negate. Do we find an untapped land as well?
I see a thing in the ice.
Yeah, I thought it might have been a pathway, but I think you're right. We do have Spell Pierce up. I don't know how much that can help, but...
Oh, no.
Here comes top of the deck for Phil Zell. No cards in hand. Can he draw the answer to the Crackling Drake or some way out? It's a Triumph. We have a redraw. We're going to spend 3 and cycle. Crossing your fingers. What was that? Another Triumph. We're cycling. Oh, it's a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Crackling Drake is going to take it down, and May French is going to qualify for the Apex Invitational at 4-1. What a showing here for the young star. The rising star here on the Apex series, May French.
You know, decided to be very conservative this entire match, and in doing so, was able to just completely run Phil Zell out of threats.
Right. Well played there from May French, and pays off, defeating Keruga Fires and moving to 4-1. You have to know that she is so happy right now. Congratulations to May on qualifying.